The amount of information available on creatine is downright overwhelming. In today's video, I would like to compile it all in one place and discuss in detail how it influences the human body, so that it could be utilized both by those who are sticking to their New Year resolution and those more experienced in order to complement their existing knowledge. For the beginning, plenty of us have wondered whether creatine is even safe. I remember the days when every discussion group had people suggesting to basically wait the magic 6 months before starting your first creatine cycle, which was supposed to last 2 months. The popular questions at the time were like, how much mass can I build during a cycle, or how much left will I have? Those arose mainly from the widespread ignorance and treating creatine merely as a supplement. Truth is, creatine is a naturally occurring compound in all vertebrates. The body synthesizes creatine on its own by breaking down 3 other amino acids, arginine, glycine, and methionine, in the amounts of up to 2 grams per day on average. To be exact, first glycine reacts in the body with arginine, as a result of which it turns into glycosamine. Arginine, on the other hand, turns into ornithine, which stimulates secretion of the growth hormone. Glycosamine turns into creatine in the body. The produced creatine then combines in the tissues with phosphoric acid, creating the creatine phosphoric acid, which is essential for life processes. Despite the small endogenous production of creatine, it plays an important enough role in the body to have substantial reserves of it stored. They get bigger when our muscle mass gets bigger. The presented study showed that a non-athletic male weighing 155 pounds stores whole 120 grams of it. Around 95% of this creatine is stored in the muscles, where it can instantly get used to generate energy, but certain amounts of it can also be found in the brain and in the testicles. The most important function of creatine is influencing the regeneration of ATP particles that, in a nutshell, serve the function of the basic energy source in our body. It is thanks to the ATP particles that you have power to perform the basic life functions, or to push yourself at the gym lifting weights. Creatine makes it easier by supporting the breakdown of carbohydrates in the muscles, which increases energy reserves during intensified work of the muscles. Creatine increases the hydration of muscle cells, which has a positive impact on their anabolism. In a way, it works like a kind of transporter for water particles. When a creatine particle is absorbed into a muscle cell, it drags water particles along with it, which increases the cell volume and forms a favorable environment for anabolism. That's because a well enough hydrated cell has greater strength and provides better conditions for growth. For someone who exercises, this means reduced risk of developing cramps and lower muscle fatigue. This whole process, however, has also contributed to the fitness community back in the days before the internet with all its knowledge, confusing this process with gaining muscle mass. That's the reason behind all the myths and questions on message boards that I mentioned earlier. When you supplement yourself with creatine, or by getting larger amounts of it from food, your body mass will grow. These are not muscles as an additional connective tissue, but it's not the so-called water retention either, as it doesn't cause you to look like a balloon, and it doesn't give the fairer sex any extra curves. It has been shown that a 7-day creatine supplementation period resulted in the water mass in the body increasing by 3 pounds on average. The additional mass when on creatine is therefore a side effect of better hydration of muscle cells. From the athletic point of view, creatine supplementation contributes to better conditions for muscle building, not just through better hydration of them. I've mentioned several times before about the nightmare of all bodybuilders, myostatin. Myostatin is a protein that belongs to the transforming beta growth factor family, which has an inhibiting effect on the muscle mass growth. Its role in the growth and differentiation of skeletal muscles has been unequivocally shown for the first time in 1997 when a team of researchers under Professor McFerrin showed that mice without the MSTN gene had their skeletal muscle mass grow up to 2 or even 3 times. How significantly it impacts the ability to build muscles can be seen in the Belgian blue cow breed, for example, which also had this gene undergo a mutation. When working out, we suffer from an increase of its level when, after a few years of conscious training and diet regime, the gains go away. That's how our body tells us that we have already reached enough muscle mass. Thanks to creatine, we can give it a signal that this is not the time yet. It's been shown that after 8 weeks of increased creatine supply, we can lower the myostatin level by 17%. It may not be the same as saying that creatine will allow us to build whole 17% more muscle mass than without it, but it's always a nice accent for everyone who trains consciously. An increase of anabolic processes also arises from direct modulation of the mTOR path and stimulation of the insulin-like IGF-1 growth factor. A study of the IGF-1 level right after taking creatine gave a result 30% higher than in the placebo-taking group, and after 24 hours from a resistance training, the group taking 5 grams of creatine had an elevated IGF-1 level by 29% on average. Knowingly or not, every bodybuilder has a naturally elevated level of creatine in their body. It's not just about the amount of muscle mass, but also about the diet. Basically, every non-vegan athlete who provides their muscles with wholesome protein also takes care of the creatine supply. One of the richest natural resources of creatine is codfish meat. 100 grams of raw fish contain whole 700 milligrams of it. On average, beef has 600 milligrams of creatine in the same size portion, whereas pork has 400 to 500. Praised by celebrities and bodybuilding forums, the mythical chicken breast has 350 at most. It's easy to count how much wholesome meat one would have to eat in a day to order to provide the mythical 5 grams or 1 gram per 22 pounds of body mass of creatine. The worst situation here is that of vegetarians and vegans who, compared to omnivores, have a much lower concentration of it. And this is where creatine in form of supplements comes into play. The most common ones are monohydrate, malate, citrate, phosphate, orotate, magnesium chelate, or ethyl ester. Each of the creatine forms listed here has the exact same task to complete, which is increasing the amount of ATP energy in the muscles. So how exactly do the individual variations differ from one another? In the context of what we're most interested in, which is the efficacy in action, it's hard to give a clear answer to that question, as there isn't enough research done to support any theses. In the chemical context, by the size of particles, stability, methods of obtaining. Additional complications of the synthesis process of specific forms of creatine contribute to the product's price. It's hard to say whether a particular form will work better than another, and it certainly won't be to the point where we can notice the impact. As I mentioned before, in particular, those who don't eat meat will experience creatine supplementation very positively. Despite the intuitively meat-based origin, I have found creatine online that is made specifically for vegans. Although there are 2 schools of taking creatine, with the charging phase and without it, in reality, the method has no major impact on the effects you will experience. What matters the most is the final saturation of the body with creatine by taking it regularly. The so-called creatine cycles don't make sense either, because people without health problems can take it anytime they want. The most popular dosage is the above-mentioned 5 grams a day, or 1 gram per every 22 pounds of body mass. We should not fear creatine, as it is not a dangerous supplement. Every manufacturer themselves is obligated to disclose the adverse reactions, but the ones experienced most often are digestive issues. Creatine may interact with certain groups of medicines. It's also not recommended in case of chronic kidney or liver diseases. Just like taking any other supplement, be it magnesium or vitamin C or creatine, common sense is always recommended. If, after taking a shock dose of monohydrate, your upset bowels decorate the toilet bowl with abstract patterns like from under a Jackson Pollock brush, I would suggest reducing the daily supply.